Hey guys and girls, my name is GrrrVahrrr and this is Wolfenstein: The New Order. You know what? I'm starting to feel a bit like a broken record, because most things I'm about to say I've already said many times before in real life and in this video prison I've created for myself. On the other hand, I've already asked several people to punch me in the stomach the moment I submit my integrity and stop banging on about how modern shooters are inferior compared to the old ones. So, Wolfenstein, a game that makes Nazis in space boring. The game starts, bugs out.
Sir.
Co-pilot Ted, shrapnel to the leg and I'm bleeding out. 71 souls in the hold. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
And starts again. Okay, we play as a chunk of man meat called BJ, who is ordered to storm a castle of a Nazi scientist, Deathhead, because of his very inventions Nazis are winning the war. But BJ, being a thick bastard that he is, fails after like an hour of gameplay when you're forced to choose which one of his friends lives or dies. Mind, which one of BJ's friends lives or dies, that is a significant choice for him, I suppose, but I don't know who the fuck those people are, except one has a Scottish accent and the other one is an annoying brat. So, guess who I chose? Besides being a modern shooter, this choice makes no difference. The result will always be the same. It is only a matter of if you want extra armor and your ears fucked by a prepubescent cunt, or extra health and be reminded of whiskey that I would rather be drinking right now. After all that bollocks, the real game starts. BJ spends like 14 years in a hospital with a head trauma, but when the time comes, he leaps off his wheelchair without any signs of muscle atrophy and starts knifing Nazis left and right. That would have been fine in a game that doesn't take itself too seriously, but with a gritty monologue and depictions of horrors that Nazis bring with them, BJ's superhuman abilities throughout the game makes him stuck in a time capsule between good old BFG wielding extravaganza and mighty brown spunk of today's shooters, much like the rest of the game. After killing all the Nazis and saving the girl, we get pretty much the best scene in the game. Honestly, the funniest thing is the look on BJ's face when he finds out that there is no US and no more resistance.
The war ain't over. Look at all these Nazis walking around.
They won!
It's over. The Nazis rule the world now. They are everywhere. Everywhere.
What about the US?
The USA, they, what's the word? Poddacie.
Surrenders.
He surrendered.
Because of Boo!
Atom bomb.
They surrendered 12 years ago when Nazi atom bombed their country.
Yes.
Well, then I'll find the resistance. I'll find them and I'll help them fight.
Oh, no, no, no. More resistance. Everyone is captured. If they leave, the Nazis have them. And who can say where they keep them?
I don't know why this scene makes me laugh so hard. Maybe it is due to the fact that 95% of games that involve US military is about how great and undefeatable US military is, and seeing in BJ's eyes this illusion crumble into dust is so incredibly satisfying. And after the realization that he can't ever stand before the US tribunal court, the first thing he does in celebration after hearing the news is torturing a person with a chainsaw. He's a Nazi though, thus it is all perfectly morally justifiable. So the next step is to go to Berlin and free the resistance members, but the way is so long and so boring. Let's spice it up by fucking. The only type of fucking a modern FPS protagonist is capable of, gritty fucking while monologuing about how he doesn't really care that a woman is riding him, because he is incapable of any other emotional response. So I guess it's a miracle BJ can get an erection at all.
Sometimes you just need to feel something good.
By the way, Anya's proposal to fuck him was a bit slutty to say the least. And don't even start on how she developed love for him while taking care of him over the years. She's a nurse! Does she fuck all her patients when they get better? If she does, it is a fantasy porn hospital I would break a leg to get into. But you can't talk about love after spending a day in the trunk of a car with a guy smelling his socks in a close environment. On the other hand, I never understood women, so maybe that's the way to go. Shortly after, BJ frees members of the Resistance, one of which is unsurprisingly the guy you chose in the prologue, who unsurprisingly takes you to the Resistance headquarters that is located in the Berlin sewers, surprisingly. That makes sense actually until the end of the next mission. And here you meet a variety of characters I don't remember names of and I don't really care about, because they're all clichés built upon clichés, starting from Hodor and to a wheelchair commander. Next stop is London, where you need to steal 3 silent stealth helicopters. That you do steal, you even fly them back to Berlin and land into the sewers in the middle of the city. It is actually one of the times the game is blatantly insulting your intelligence. Not as far as a couple of days ago, they had trouble driving in a car because of the insane Nazi surveillance system, and now they land stolen military-grade prototype stealth helicopters right in the middle of the city. It is one of the main problems I've got with the whole narrative actually. Throughout the game, the only reason you manage to achieve all your heroic victories is not because you're a Norse god of ass-kicking, it is because Nazis are incompetent as fuck. Give them 10 more years and their empire will collapse upon itself. And mind, we're talking about Germans over here. I was once drinking with a group of Germans. After dealing with several beers and a couple of bottles of Chinese vodka, the night was only beginning and we were ready to go for more. But straight at 11, the biggest, tallest German guy just stood up and said, you know, it's 11, we got a tour tomorrow, so we need to go to bed. And all of them, as one, just stood up and went to sleep. We were shocked. I haven't seen such display of responsibility in my entire life. So, the fact that no one reported 3 helicopters landing into the sewers in the middle of Berlin is just insane. The next thing, and I'm not joking here, is a concentration camp, where you have to find and free a Jewish scientist. Honestly, the whole sequence is pretty insulting. First of all, the working station is just nonsense. Operating 2 levers is not even close to what prisoners had to actually do. Second of all, the entire escape routine is such bullshit. Changing clothes in plain sight, entering restricted building during daylight, murdering half the staff without anyone noticing. Do you see what I mean when I say that Nazis just seem incompetent in what they do? In the end, BJ just steals a mag, destroys the camp and escapes with no consequences whatsoever. As it turned out, the Jewish scientist is a part of secret society of Jewish scientists that invent miraculous things. And this is where the Nazis got all their future technology from. So, not so much of master race, eh? Regardless, the Resistance also needs such technology, but to get to the stash they need a submarine first. So you go and steal one. I've done worse.
This is the Eva's Hammer, the crown jewel of the Nazi U-boat fleet. There's a nuclear cannon on this boat. Correction, our nuclear cannon.
We get to a place that is opened by singing in Yiddish, by the way, and has Judaism symbols all over everything. The whole thing reminds me of You Don't Mess with the Zohan for some reason. On the bright side, you get Isaac Clarke's suit and the magic ball of destruction that you use on a bridge in order to get an idea of a Nazi scientist that gets you to the moon to steal decryption keys for nuclear rockets that are on the submarine that you stole previously. The moon was my biggest disappointment, I think. It's so dull. Just a series of corridors and a brief walk outside. It is not how you do Nazis on the moon shtick. Iron Sky has done it correctly several years ago, with a giant swastika-shaped moon base, Nazi space blimps, and unobtainium mines. Here, the only difference between the moon level and the submarine level is the color palette and laser weapons. While BJ was chasing chipmunks on the moon, the Resistance headquarters was attacked and his girl was kidnapped. So it's time to save the day, the girl, kill Death's Head for murdering whoever the fuck you chose in the beginning, and live happily ever after. BJ does all of that, except the last thing because he dies. The end. No, seriously, this is the end. We don't even get to see the nuclear explosion because they ran out of money or something. The story is bollocks. The funniest thing about it is how the creators managed to make Nazis in space dull by just not going too far with it. This whole alternative universe is way too grounded in reality to be a game about Nazi robot dogs and space mechs. It is Nazis on the moon, for the fuck's sake. It needs much more stupid shit, like even worse German accents, a villain that wants to destroy the world because science, a protagonist that kills Nazis with witty one-liners instead of bullets, opposed to our grittily fucking BJ. The original Wolfenstein 3D had Hitler dual-wielding miniguns. Does the new one has Hitler dual-wielding miniguns? No, so what's the point? Okay, when it comes to gameplay, I have to admit, that is one of the most enjoyable modern formula shooter I've ever played, which is not the point in its favor really, because it is like saying that in that particular sewer this pile of shit smells the least. The reason I say it is enjoyable because it takes the modern shooter formula of corridor, chest-high, wall-hiding scripted wank and makes it less annoying by implementing it more organically into the gameplay. For example, the game is still linear as fuck, but sometimes you can choose between 2 corridors instead of just 1. Astonishing achievement for gaming in 2014, I know. Actually, there's an Easter egg where you enter the first level of Wolfenstein 3D that arguably has a better level design than some levels in the New Order. So, joke's on you! It is said actually that bringing up what was normal several decades back is considered to be an improvement. Much like how in the New Order to use cover you don't need to stick to it trying to hump every brick. You can just hide behind it and automatically use it while aiming. Yeah, it doesn't work sometimes, but still it doesn't get in the way and may consider to be an improvement. Or a callback to the past depending on how old you are. Some of the lessons of what not to do shooters in recent years has taught us were overlooked unfortunately in favor of realism. And fuck realism. If you want realism, stop being a pussy and join the army. Or buy Arma 3. I want shooting space demons with guns made of God's nostril hair while riding a centaur woman. But it seems I'm alone in this fantasy, so in Wolfenstein the new one, when it comes to guns, we get a generic pistol, shotgun, assault and sniper rifles, all of which have impact of exploding cum bubbles. But I suppose we have to be incredibly grateful to the devs, because they were generous enough to include a laser cannon. Wow. They kinda forgot about stuff like a flamethrower or a rocket launcher though, but at the same time they managed to basically revolutionize the genre by allowing you to carry more weapons than eyeballs. Seriously though, I'm genuinely thankful for that. By the way, the weapon upgrade system makes me wonder one thing. If you collect upgrades by finding them, is it possible to miss them? If it is, that's quite neat and also revolutionary. When is the last time a AAA FPS allowed you to miss content? I can't even remember. When it comes to enemies, Wolfenstein also suffers from a disease that has been plaguing modern shooters for the past several years. We get like 5 types of enemies that change jumpsuits throughout the game. It's normal soldiers, commanders, super soldiers, mechs, dogs, robot dogs and flying bots. So yeah, like 7 types. Doom 2, a game from 1994, had more than twice than that, and it was not a 44 gig download. Seriously, where do these 44 gigabytes go? Most textures still look like shit, and I wouldn't call the graphics astonishing even on the highest setting. Some things the game definitely deserves the praise for. The inclusion of RPG elements is done in a smart way. Instead of collecting arbitrary points to get a perk, you need to complete a certain challenge. That brings variety to the gameplay. On the other hand, I'm sure you'll be fine if you ignore the whole system completely and do whatever you like. The system is completely optional, but allows you to try different playstyles. And the playstyle that I'm absolutely fond of is stealth. That is implemented pretty good for a game that doesn't focus on stealth at all. And if you fail, just shoot everything. It is nice to have options overall. Next is the health system, and thank the FPS gods for the abandonment of regenerating health. Yeah, health kits unfortunately come out of the game's ass as if it has an explosive diarrhea, but still there were a couple of moments when I had to be frantically looking for a health pack while trying to avoid machine gun fire, which is the essence of old school excitement. It's also weird to say, but what I would definitely praise the game for is its collectibles. It is one of the rare times when I actually cared about finding them, mainly music records. You can say whatever you want about the game, but German Beatles is undeniably awesome. The world building, unlike character building, is really good in the New Order. All the facts that you find out about how the war went in this universe are interesting and well written. Most importantly, written by people who genuinely know the real history that allowed them to include a lot of subtle things into the news posts that only an educated person can get. Just surprisingly incredible. In a couple of things though, the game absolutely fails. Fetch quests between missions are annoying as fuck. I have done all of them, including the optional ones, and it is not worth it. They are supposed to tell you about the characters, but the thing is, there are no interesting characters in the game. None of them will be remembered, so the whole thing is just a chore. Much like both boss fights the game has, the London Sentinel is piss easy because there are multiple spots where it can't get you no matter what, and shooting up its robotic deck is not precisely hard as well. The victory over the final boss is also unsatisfying as hell, leaving you only with a thought, was that it? Don't get me wrong, it's still a step up from what happened in the finale of Rage, but come on, we all know you can do better. And finally, with all this time I spent praising things of old in this video, one thing I have to admit. A thing that had to be dealt with a long time ago just stepped on with a mighty boot of progress. A thing that plagued FPSs for the longest time and was never ever good. It's ladders! It is literally the worst enemy you will ever meet in this game and most others. I would even beg for obligatory button presses, but please, a technology that makes ladders usable needs to be invented. It is a thing of old that needs to die, and even if you try to copy the fun of old school, some things need to be abandoned for the good of humanity. Overall, if asked whether I have enjoyed the game, I would answer yes. It does enough things right to be enjoyable, just not enough things right to be satisfying. It is like starting a sexual intercourse and going at it for 9 hours and never finishing. There is always something lacking, not a single thing developed to its fullest potential, making what could have been a high-octane fun just a decent game that won't make you stab yourself in the eyes in annoyance, and for many nowadays it is enough. For me, I'm just not ready to give up on an idea of an FPS fun that can only be compared to personally participating in an intergalactic war with God. Go check out Brutal Doom for that particular experience. So, thanks for watching guys, the name is GrrrVahrrr, and I shall see you from within my next video.
3, 2, 1. Schaut uns an und wir zurück. Der Mond ist über uns, wird uns gehören. Gestern die Welt und heute der Himmel. Denn uns gehört er und die Freiheit fließt.